Well, greetings and good morning, BCOT247 students. This is Mr. Doucette. This is week number 9 in our 16 or 15, 15 week course of business communications, managerial communications here at Chaffey, actually at Cerritos College. That's a bit wrong on the screen. I teach this class at Chaffey as well, at Cerritos College. I forgot to change that. But we're looking at negative messages this week. So this week you'll be writing a negative news email. And so it's very important that you understand how to write a negative message because the negative message always uses the indirect strategy, which we did discuss the indirect strategy a few weeks ago. We're also going to be discussing it again today. And really, what that boils down to for a negative news message is you should always start your message with a buffer of some sort, and then all the reasons for the negative news, then the negative news, then a courteous close. And the key to the indirect strategy is you do not reveal the negative news until after you've given all the reasons. It's kind of like, you're beating around the bush because you don't want to turn off your reader before they've heard all the reasons. Sometimes you announce the negative news right away and all they see is red because they're angry and they don't listen to any of the reasons. So the idea of the negative or the indirect strategy is to build them up with the reasons, and then when they receive the negative news, it's a little more understandable. And that's the idea. So you're going to also be creating an email. So making sure you format the email correctly is going to be extremely important. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that right now as I go to our class in Canvas. So you should be seeing our home screen in Canvas right now. And we are again in module number 2. We have one more week for module 2, and then we'll be moving into our third and final module. So I'm going to scroll down here. Of course, this was last week. You looked at chapter, let's see, am I right on that? Chapter, yeah, chapter 8. So chapter 6. You did kind of routine and routine business messages, something like that. And so you wrote a routine positive memo on floating holidays. So this was where you need to make it look like a memo. And in fact, there was a how to format a memo here that you could look at. I think also in the writing assignment itself, I gave you samples of a memo. So yours should look like a memo. And of course, it should be written in such a way that is very visually appealing. Memos, especially, are put on bulletin boards and break rooms, things like that. So you want to make sure that it's very easy to read and scan, and that's where you utilize a lot of text design. Well, that's no different in your negative news email. We're going to be continuing our discussion post on the do's and don'ts of business writing. But you have a check-in assignment on Chapter 7, which again, Chapter 7 is all about negative messages and how to utilize the indirect strategy. There's also a PowerPoint. Make sure you review that. You also have a quiz. So make sure you do that. You can take it up to 3 times. The idea here is just that you're learning the concepts of the chapter. And then you're going to continue your discussion post. In fact, I'm going to change the date on that. So they have the due date for this next week coming up. And it'll be also the 13th. So I'm going to change it. And again, you have one more week to complete this assignment. But make sure you have, if you remember, it's kind of a three-part assignment. So you need to make an initial list. Then you need to comment and view other students' lists, and then you need to make a final list. So if you've not done any of those, do that this week, and then that way you'll be able to do your final list next week. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. So back to this week's module. And then you have your writing assignment on the negative news email. So I'm going to go there for a second and just explain this. So again, you're going to be using the indirect approach, which is to use a buffer, give the reasons, and give all the reasons for the negative news, and then give the bad news, and then end with a respectful close. Your close should thank them for their compliance, appreciate their teamwork, etc. And then here's some things to kind of keep in mind when you are conveying negative news. Here's the scenario. It's basically you work for a company called Marketing Mind, and people are misusing social media. They're misusing their computer during work hours. They're on Facebook. They're making posts. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So you're basically gonna eliminate any use of social media or the internet for personal reasons during work hours. So that is the negative news, is you're making that change, and they're not going to be happy about it. Anyway, so make sure you do a buffer, all the reasons, negative news, and then a courteous close. And it doesn't need to be long. this document should be less than a page, in all honesty. If it's more than a page, you went too long with it. But the big key here is making sure that you make it look like an email. And so here's your rubric, but down the bottom, I give you a good email. And this explains what a good email has. It has a clear, detailed subject line. If you do have an attachment, which maybe you're going to attach a new policy or guidelines for social media use, so you'd want to make that name of that very clear. You should have an opening statement to an email. Sometimes people skip that in an email. You should always have a salutation, and it should end in a colon. Then you have short, single-spaced paragraphs in your document. Notice this particular one uses a numbered list, which is excellent. That helps break up a long paragraph. It uses bold text to make important and italicized text to make important things stand out. And then it has, most importantly of all, a full, complete signature block. That means contact information is included, email address is included, job title, company you work for, etc. It should look like this. It doesn't need to have both names. You can just have best and then this bottom part, but either way, it should be complete. And this is true in a business setting. Your email program should be set up to include a full, complete signature block on all the emails that you send inside and outside the company. So this is a good email. Make sure it looks like that and that you utilize all those features that I just demonstrated there. So that's pretty much it for this week. If you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me via text or email. If we need to set up a Zoom session, we can. But that's pretty much it. You will see me again on video next week. So until then, keep up the good work. See you then.